Namaste. Welcome to Bhagavad Gita as it is, studies. Today we're going to cover the three modes of material nature. This is lesson 2. In lesson 1 we covered the laws of karma, and now we'll see, as we understand and unpack the three modes of material nature, we'll see how it's interlinked with the laws of karma as we put these pieces of the jigsaw puzzle together. I'm not teaching in any sequential order like the Bhagavad Gita, because the three modes of material nature are very important and they take a whole chapter in Bhagavad Gita as it is. Chapter 14 is dedicated to the three modes of material nature. So we're going to dive straight into chapter 14 today. But that's okay. Once I've covered all the main aspects of Bhagavad Gita, it will all come together into one package, so it doesn't have to be covered chapter by chapter. In the first lesson, the laws of karma, I spoke about the importance of Bhagavad Gita as it is compared to other Bhagavad Gita commentaries. I spoke about Srila Prabhupada, who he was and his significance. So I'm not going to repeat that. That's all in lesson 1, the laws of karma. So we're going to just dive straight into the three modes of material nature. So to begin, we're going to begin with an invocation mantra. We'll chant 3 times. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. That invocation mantra is offering respects to the Supreme Personality, the speaker of Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna, also known as Vasudeva. So this Bhagavad Gita study is for the serious student, those who actually want to know their position in this material world and how to get out of their entangled state. Because the laws of karma we touched last time, I'd like to just make one point on that, which I found very interesting, which I didn't mention, was about the accumulated effects of our karma. So we do an action now, we get a reaction for that, then we react to that reaction and we get another reaction. So that creates this catapult scenario that escalates, and then that's all escalating, and then we create another action here which creates a reaction, then we react to that reaction and that creates another reaction, then you have another escalating scenario here, and then again and again, and before we know it, as the years pass, we could, if we're not careful, find ourselves in a entangled situation, shall we say, like an insect caught in the spider's web. We're entangled in the mesh of the complexities of material life that we've got ourselves into unknowingly through action and reaction and action and reaction. So this three modes of material nature, this explains also how to become free from this entanglement. And another point that I didn't mention was when we get this knowledge and we start applying it into our life, the analogy is giving of a fan that's spinning, and when you turn the fan off, it continues to spin for some time, and then gradually it slows down, and then eventually it stops. So that's like our karma. When we get the knowledge of akarma, or acting free from our karmic reactions, whether they're good or bad, and when we learn to transcend these three modes of material nature that we're going to discuss, and that brings us to the stage of akarma, then this is like turning the switch off of the fan of our karmic reactions. But it doesn't stop straight away. The karma, it starts to slow down because we've got reactions that have come from previous actions that we still need to, how would you say, burn out. So that's where patience comes in, to tolerate whatever's coming at us, even though we've taken to the path of what you might call devotional service or selfless service. We still need to be patient while our past karma plays itself out, as this fan of our karma starts to slow down and comes to a standstill. And this is very beautiful to witness. So we're going to begin by chanting a verse from the 14th chapter. So this is chapter 14, text 9 from Bhagavad Gita, as it is. Sattvam sukhe sanjayati raja kamani bharata jnanam avrichatu tama paramade sanjayatyuta. Translation: O son of Bharat, the mode of goodness conditions one to happiness. Passion conditions one to fruitive action, and ignorance, covering one's knowledge, binds one to madness. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. A person in the mode of goodness is satisfied by his work or intellectual pursuit, just as a philosopher, scientist, or educator may be engaged in a particular field of knowledge and may be satisfied in that way. A man in the mode of passion may be engaged in fruitive activity. He owns as much as he can and spends for good causes. Sometimes he tries to open hospitals, give to charity institutions, etc. These are signs of one in the mode of passion. And the mode of ignorance covers knowledge. In the mode of ignorance, whatever one does is neither good for him nor for anyone. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sutadevi Pranamani Hari Priye. Vanchakalpat Ubischa Kripa Sindhu Evacha Patitanam Pabhavevyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So this is it ninth verse. Yeah, this ninth verse of the 14th chapter of Srimad Bhagavad Gita entitled The Three Modes of Material Nature, explain very nicely, in a very concise way, what is being covered in this chapter. And it talks about the mode of goodness, the mode of passion, and the mode of ignorance, and the symptoms thereof. So these three modes can either be very binding, and it's very related to the karma, because the mode of ignorance, actually all three modes bind us, but just in different ways. And it was like that we talked about the good karma and the bad karma, and even the good karma binds us to this material world. So likewise, the mode of goodness, that also binds us to the material world. So there's something beyond the mode of goodness, and that's where we're going to reach, and that becomes parallel with akarma, or actions which are free from our karmic reaction. So every mode has a symptom, and everything we do in life is symptomatic of a mode, i.e. the thoughts we think, the words we speak, the actions we take, the food we eat. All these are part of a mode at any time. And it's explained that these modes, they compete for superiority. So sometimes one mode may be more prominent in us at any particular time than another mode. So the mode of ignorance is also known as inertia or darkness. It's a place where individuals are lethargic, apathetic, they sleep excessively, they'll take drugs, intoxicants, and it's also explained that meat eating falls into this lower mode. The eating of dead animal flesh falls into this lower mode. So that's just something to be aware of. The mode of passion is symptomatic of activity, drive, wanting to be successful in life and working hard for that, wanting a bigger house. And whenever we want to increase our material wealth and prosperity, the sacrifice is the hard work that we have to do for such a temporary result. So this is considered mode of passion. And also Srila Prabhupada mentioned in his purport that giving some of your wealth to charity as well, it kind of offsets and it creates a whole person in society. And we see that in this modern society, it's very driven by this mode of passion for material wealth, competing to better yourself in society, within your business, to try and move up the ranks. Sometimes there can often be competition amongst others for position. And also giving some of your wealth in charity and maintaining your family. This is all necessary. And then the mode of goodness, it's more of a peaceful existence. It's not striving so hard in the material world and competing and just wanting to accumulate wealth. It's more philosophical, it's becoming more introspective and living a regulated life. And there's certain foods that accompany the mode of goodness, like fruits and vegetables and grains and nuts and seeds and the whole vegetarian vegan diet. This is all very mode of goodness foods, and it's very conducive for a spiritual life, because it's explained that when we eat dead animal flesh, it affects our consciousness. Hippocrates said even 2,500 years ago that you are what you eat. You know, he's known as the father of medicine, and he spoke, you are what you eat. And animals, before they're slaughtered, they release a lot of adrenaline into their system because they know their time has come and they're helpless to do anything about it. And this adrenaline is stored in the muscle tissues, as well as non-organic meat, which is what the mass of meat is. It's full of antibiotics and hormones that have been injected into the animals. And the animals, many of them have suffered greatly in their life as well, living in cooped up spaces, not seeing much daylight. So then when we eat that flesh, we put in those chemicals, those hormones, those antibiotics, and also the fear of the animals and the animalistic nature of the animals, because it's all in their flesh and we're consuming that flesh. So that's a conducive for a mode of passion and mode of ignorance life. It's not conducive for a mode of goodness life. It's not recommended if one wants to rise above the entanglement of material life, because material life's just full of suffering. And the main 4 features of the suffering of material life is birth, old age, disease, and finally death. And we see that all around us. And yet sometimes we often think it's not going to happen to us, or we just carry on regardless, like there's nothing more to life. But the Vedic scripts explain that there's a lot more to life, and it's a science of understanding reality. There's a science to it, and the Bhagavad Gita is a science book of self-realization, and it's explaining the science of material life. So just staying with these 3 modes for now before we transcend the modes. So in Sanskrit, these modes are known as Tama Guna, mode of ignorance, Raja Guna, mode of passion, and Sattva Guna, mode of goodness. But they all bind us to the material world, and these modes are struggling for competition, and we might see that in our life. And now we can start applying this philosophy of the modes of nature into our life and start to see how things are in our life. So a symptom of the mode of goodness is the regulation. So when one can create a regulated life, especially rising early, having a cold shower, and then doing a spiritual practice before breakfast, whatever that spiritual practice may be. It could be yoga, physical yoga, or combination, meditation, study. But these things are especially recommended. Some form of meditation, maybe some little exercise, whether that's dancing or some hatha yoga or whatever it may be, kriya yoga. So little exercise, some meditation, and maybe some study. But especially the meditation, it's very important, because it's time to really come with ourselves and connect with ourselves and become an observer of our thoughts, and really doing that daily really gets us to know ourselves better, so we can see what's going on, and then we can become more aware of these modes of nature when they try and kick in. So if we start becoming lethargic and apathetic, we can see this lower mode of Tama Guna, the mode of ignorance, is starting to take over. And if we have that drive, which is necessary as well, every mode is necessary. It's not like one is good and the other is bad. They're all necessary. Let's take, for example, when we go to sleep at night, after we've slept for over an hour, it said we start to enter into the Tama Guna. Now this is necessary, because in that Tama Guna state of inertia, it helps our whole system reset itself. So we're ready for the next day and we're reset. Just imagine if we didn't sleep, how long would we be able to function for as adults? And we try and push through without sleeping. Our whole system would just break down. The mind would break, the nervous system would break. So sleep is necessary, and that's a Tama Guna activity, so it's necessary. And just like rising early and practicing having our spiritual practice and having a regulated life and eating healthy vegetarian foodstuff, this is also necessary. And having some drive and working to create an income, whatever that work is, that's also necessary. So all these modes, it's action, the passion is the action, they're all necessary. It's when one takes over that we have our sleep, and then morning comes and we don't get out of bed. And this becomes ongoing, we don't get out of bed. Now this is the mode of ignorance is starting to take hold of that person for whatever reason. Obviously there's underlying issues why this is happening to that person, why the mode of ignorance is happening to that person. There'll be underlying issues. But it's happening. Or if someone gets up and there's no morning spiritual practice, they just get up and straight away it's work, work, work. Gobble down some breakfast quickly and you're out the door to the office. You're working a 12-hour day, 14-hour day. That's your life. There's no stop to it. You're bringing in a lot of money. You're getting your house, your garden. But you never have much time to enjoy your house or garden. You have a lovely wife at home and children, but you don't have much time to enjoy their company because you may be a man and you're working hard. Your wife may be working hard. If a husband and wife, they're both influenced strongly by the mode of passion, they might both be career driven, working hard, they don't see their children much, and that's a mode of passion that's exaggerated in someone's life, and that's the symptoms. You can see that, and it's like for individuals like that, it would be recommended to create a lifestyle change, slow things down. It's not recommended to live like this from the Vedic point of view. It's not considered healthy, it's not considered wholesome, and it's not. Often individuals like this can start to get stomach ulcers, they burn out, they can be stressed out, they take substances to help them cope, like they might snort cocaine in the daytime. Many people do in the business sector, and they might be drinking the red wine after work or whatever it was. Different coping mechanisms, there's so many available. So a lot of these people in the mode of passion, they've got a lot of coping mechanisms to help keep them driven, amphetamine and other things. And then there's the mode of goodness. Now the mode of goodness is considered conducive for spiritual life. So this is where we really want to be heading, towards the mode of goodness. We can see where we are, we can think, my life is full of Tama Guna, or my life is full of Raja Guna, mode of passion. So we can see that, and we can start to make adjustments to bring us to the Sattva Guna platform, or the mode of goodness. And some of those adjustments can be dietary change your diet. And you can learn about the Ayurveda, the ancient system, natural medical system of India. It comes in very well, works with these modes of nature very nicely, and that's a whole nother topic, the Ayurveda and how that works with our doshas, Pitta, Vata and Kapha, and the fire of the Pitta and the air of the Vata and the earth of the Kapha, and how that makes us a certain way according to our nature, we have different natures, you see. So we're naturally influenced more by certain modes, and that's very interesting to know your nature. So it's always recommended to have your Ayurvedic consultation done. You can do this yourself online and get a pretty good picture quite easily by filling in certain questionnaires, and you will answer A, B or C to the answer, and that will determine at the end what your total count is of A, B and C, whether your Vata predominate, Pitta predominate or Kapha predominate. And this will see your because like say someone whose Pitta predominate is the fire, so often these people have got the drive, so that mode of passion kind of comes in with the Pitta, with the drive. And people who have the earth, the Kapha, it's heavy, earth is Kapha, it's earth and water, so it's like heavy, and that kind of Tama Guna can come in where it's like lethargic and you don't want to do exercise. And I mean, everything has a quality, because these Kapha people, they can make good managers because they can just stay in one place and manage, and they're very good at that naturally. So it's very good to find out what our natures are, and then how to balance that nature through diet, through exercise, because not everything is, there's not one recommendation for everyone. You can have a general recommendation, but to find the specifics, then it's good to know our individual nature, and Ayurveda really helps with that. Like say for example, someone who's very Kapha, like the heavy, and often it can be symptomatic, they might be large, and you can see by the physical structure, like say example, you can see that I don't have the physical structure of a Kapha person because I'm not Kapha person, and that you can see that in my structure. So for a Kapha person, it's recommended to do some exercise, a little bit dynamic to get things moving. Where for a Vata person, like myself, who predominate Vata, and that's the air sign, so it can be like quite all over the place because air is always moving. So Vata people often like to be moving, which is okay because everything has its benefits, but if it's out of balance, then it's not beneficial. So for a Vata person, it might be, the exercise might be more just very calming exercise, Tai Chi, Qi Kung, some very gentle yoga, gentle breathing, and really grounding this energy, connect with Mother Nature. So it's a different recommendation, even though exercise is there nonetheless, because it's a very important aspect to keep ourselves healthy and fit, because these are our one and only temple we have in this life. So, and I say temple because it's explained that the Supreme Divine resides in the heart of every living entity as the witness of their activities. So we're a temple of the Divine. And that's the Namaste, is the light in me recognizes the light in you, and that is the Divine within each and every being. So these modes of nature, they can be different in different people, and this is really interesting to understand as well, and that's why it's called the science of self-realization, the journey of self-discovery, because we're learning about ourselves, and only when we really understand ourselves, our individual nature, can we really move forward and find a package that works for us according to our individual nature. So some people are more naturally influenced by some of these modes than others. Like say for example, my influence is quite interesting because this is my history now, because as the years pass by in life, you get to know yourself a bit better, and you've got something to look back on as well, and you can see certain patterns, and you can go, oh yeah, that's interesting, that's kind of repeated again. So for myself, it's very much like the mode of goodness and the mode of ignorance. These two have been prominent in my life without so much mode of passion. I'm just not that much of a mode of passion person, which could be like the yang. You have the yin and you have the yang, and the yin is more receptive and the yang is more active. Where that activeness is there, but in my general day-to-day life, like as far as say material life goes, I've never really had that drive to become materially successful and really be in the world and have that drive, which is like, it takes that mode of passion. Mine would be either mode of goodness, where I'm engaging my spiritual life, I'm rising early, I'm having my cold shower, I'm doing my 2 hours meditation and then studying, and my whole morning spiritual practice can go from 5 in the morning till 9 in the morning. When it was very strong like that, especially when I was living in ashrams, so you're in a community and it's more conducive for that spiritual life and that discipline. And then engaging my day in like voluntary service, like karma yoga, and then some more spiritual chanting in the evening, and it's like this sandwich of a spiritual practice in the morning and evening, and like a karma yoga voluntary service. But none of that's really driven for material wealth. Or then there's the other side, the mode of ignorance, which is suddenly can't be bothered to do all that. Something's happened in your life and it's kind of shaken you and took you off the path, and now you don't want to get up and do your practice, and it all starts to feel difficult. Like that mode of goodness, it's explained, the mode of goodness is interesting because it's explained that at first the mode of goodness can seem like poison. I don't want to rise early. I don't want to have a cold shower. Oh, this meditation chanting is boring. Oh, sitting here just breathing is boring. So the mind is rebelling against what you're trying to introduce. So at first it seems like poison, but then eventually when you get a taste for it and you start to see the benefits of that lifestyle, it starts to become like nectar. So it begins like poison, but it becomes like nectar. Where the mode of passion is different, it's the opposite. The mode of passion, it can begin like nectar. You meet a woman and you fall in love and everything's beautiful and it's just nectar from the beginning, but then it can just turn into the opposite. It can turn into poison and it can create so much heartache. So that's the opposite, where because you came into that relationship, for example, in the mode of passion, so you'll get an instant gratification, but then further down the line comes the suffering. So it's very interesting how these modes of nature work, and as you can see from just this short introduction, it's very vast and complex, and we could talk about just one aspect of all the different aspects I've touched on and really expand on just one aspect of the modes of nature for a long time. So really you're just getting a little taste of all the different ways the modes work, but it's very good to understand them and start to see how they work in your life. So yeah, what was I going to say? About the mode of goodness being poison in the beginning but nectar in the end. It's a habit. It's about creating new habits. Like I know one devotee friend of a Krishna devotee, and I was speaking with him recently. He's an Indian person, and he was born in India. He's in England now. He's a doctor in the hospital. And he said that his parents instilled good habits into him from the time he was a child. So he would always be getting up at about 4:30 in the morning. His parents would be getting up at 4:30 in the morning, and they'd be getting him up. So he said he's always been used to getting up at 4:30. And it wasn't necessarily a spiritual life, but when he came into spiritual life and that whole rising early, it was just easy for him because he's always done it all his life and he carried on doing it. But now, instead of just rising early and just getting on with his day, he rises early and he does his meditation practice and has his spiritual life. But the rising early part was very easy. Where for myself and for many other people, it's not so easy because I didn't have that discipline as a child to rise early. So now it's like creating a new habit, and new habits are hard to create, and you have to stick with it and be determined. And some people will make easier progress than others. For me, it's really been like this. Sometimes I've really had a taste and been rising early, and other times I lose that taste and I don't want to rise early. So, and it's an ongoing journey. We just carry on, we stay with the process, and things break through because it's a lifelong journey, and that's the beautiful thing about the journey. And sometimes we feel more enthused in the journey and other times not. So that's just a few things about the material modes of nature. Now I'm going to just explain about the implications of the modes, and then we're going to move into transcending the modes and what's beyond the modes. Is there something beyond the modes? Yes. So the connection with karma. Well, you could already start seeing the connection with karma, that if you act in the mode of ignorance, it's karma. You're creating a certain karma for yourself from acting in that mode of Tama Guna. If you act in the mode of passion, you're creating a certain karma for yourself. And likewise in the mode of goodness. So in the mode of ignorance, inertia, sleeping, intoxication, this is just going to kind of not help elevate your consciousness. So in your next life, you haven't really worked towards an elevated birth. And the most elevated birth in the material world is to be born into a spiritual family, really. A family of who your mother and father are spiritually, have a spiritual practice, and you'll grow up in that environment. This is actually more beneficial than being born in a rich family. I've got good karma, I've been born in a rich family, but those riches could be your ruin. Where you're born into a family of nice devotees, then that will really help you continue in your next life. But you have to earn that qualification. And it said that's not so easy. And Arjuna asked Krishna in Bhagavad Gita, what is the destination of the unsuccessful yogi or yogini? What is their destination? Someone who has come onto the path of yoga, union, connecting with the divine, but they're not successful in this life. For some reason, they come off the path. They practice it for some time, and they accrue some spiritual, how would you say, points. The spiritual bank balance goes up for that, because of their selfless service they've done and this inner work they've done. But at some point they come off their path and they don't take it through to the end of their life. So Arjuna asks, what's the goal of such a yogi? And Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita that the goal is that they take birth in their next life in a family of devotees, and they can carry on in their next life. Because it says that any work we do is never forgotten. Whatever we do for the divine, for the higher self, is never forgotten. And that comes with us into our next life. There's no loss or diminution and a little advancement we make on this path will continue into our next life. So that's explained very clearly. But we have to do the work to get that qualification. Now, if we're just in the mode of ignorance, and that's our karma, and if we don't do something to change our karma, which is what the opportunity have, we all have an opportunity to change our karma and make some effort to progress in life. But we have to do that for ourselves. And if we don't do it, if we become too overtaken by the lower modes of nature, then in our next life it won't be progressive. So it's not recommended to allow yourself to succumb to Tama Guna, the mode of ignorance. Now, the mode of passion, we can continue again in our next life, but we're still caught up in this cycle of birth and death. And sometimes in the mode of passion, people have to step over others to become successful. And also, the Bhagavad Gita, it's about transcending the cycle of birth and death. This is what we're caught up in, these material forms. And it's explained it's very hard to overcome this material nature. It's very hard. But when one takes shelter of the Supreme, the Divine, the source of the spiritual and material energy, who we are intrinsically connected with, then it says it's very easy to overcome material nature. And I say intrinsically connected with because the nature of the spirit soul is the same nature as the Supreme Soul. Just like one particle of sunshine is the same quality as the sun planet, which is fire, heat, light. One ray of sunshine, but the quantity is different. Similarly, one drop of ocean water is the same as the whole ocean. It's H2O, salt. It's the same quality, but in quantity, there's no comparison. And likewise, the living entity, you and I, our spirit soul, which is the essence of our being, it's who we are. And that's what we're going to cover in the next lesson, the nature of ourself. So it's going to be a very interesting lesson. That is of the same quality as the Supreme. But again, the quantity is different, but the quality is the same. And that one of the aspects of that quality is the eternal nature of the Spirit, our eternal nature. So by nature, we are eternal, but we're finding ourselves in a temporary material body, entrapped in this material world, in the repeated cycle of birth and death. Somehow or other we have found ourselves in this situation, and it seems like there's no way out. But there is a way out, and the Bhagavad Gita is the torchlight to show us the way out, and it will guide us out if we want that. And it's said that an intelligent person will come to that. They'll realize that not all that glitters is gold in this material world, and it's quite the opposite. And they'll realize that there's no real happiness in this material world. It's all temporary, it's illusory, and it doesn't have any lasting fruits. So why would a wise person want to pursue that when they could pursue their liberation? And Bhagavad Gita is guiding us towards that. So even the mode of goodness, like good karma, it's still binding us to the material world. And it's explained that some people are happy with this. There's a false sense of happiness because they're all right, they're philosophical, and everything's kind of all right, but the miseries of material life are still there. The birth, the death, the old age, the disease, it's still there, but still they don't want to do anything really about it. And it's explained that the hog, a soul in an animal's body like a hog, and if you've been to India, the holy town of Vrindavan, there's open sewers there, and you'll see wild pigs, hogs, in these open sewers. And stool will come down in this open sewers, and the hogs will eat that stool, and they're very happy, and they roll around in the stool, and they're extremely happy because of their nature as a hog. This is what brings them happiness. But for a human being to look at that, we'll think that is disgusting. I never want to be a hog and live like that. And there was a beautiful pastime with a demigod. His name is Indradev, and he's the demigod of the weather. And he was cursed by a powerful sage to take birth as a hog. And now imagine he's the king of heaven, and now he's coming to earth in a hog's body, and he's enjoying life now in a hog's body. He's completely forgotten that who he really is, that he's Indradev, the king of heaven, and he's in a hog's body enjoying eating stool. He gets a hog wife and has hog children, and he's very happy, absorbed. And then his time, you could call it punishment, was up, and it was time for him to return to his position as king of heaven once again. But he was so absorbed in his world as a hog, he didn't want to go back and be king of heaven, because he was in his hog consciousness, and he was very happy there, eating the stool, rolling around in the mud and the stool with his hog wife and hog children. And that pastime shows how we can become bewildered by the material energy. The material energy, it's called Maya, the illusory energy of the Lord, and it bewilders the living entity. And we as human beings also are pretty much bewildered by this Maya. And that's a great example. The king of heaven becomes a wild pig, and he's so happy, he doesn't want to become the king of heaven again because he forgot who he was. But we look at that, we see that's disgusting. But as human beings, we also have different levels of consciousness. It's explained there's 400,000 species of human beings. And yes, some of them can be humanoids on other planets, but also it's different gradations of consciousness that we have. And you may see that yourself. You walk around without being judgmental, but you see another human being doing something, like behaving in a certain way or acting in a certain way or eating something or in a certain way, and you might think, oh God, I could never live like that. You know, you see their lifestyle and you think, oh, because you're in a different consciousness, and that person may be very overtaken by Tama Guna, the mode of ignorance, and you may be more Rajagun to Sattva Guna towards mode of goodness. So you have a different lifestyle, where for you it might be important to have a daily shower, and cleanliness is important to you, and eating clean food. Where someone else, that's not important to them, and they may not have had a shower or bath for 10 days or more, and they're eating from bins, and to you that's kind of disgusting. Because the modes of nature, you're affected by the different modes of nature. But it's kind of relative, because we look at the hog, we look at the mode of ignorance and the mode of goodness, but now the demigods look at us, even if we're in the mode of goodness, and see how can they want to stay in that material world, on the earthly realm, living that life, when they could be enjoying heavenly delights from the demigod's perspective. They could be enjoying heavenly delights, but they're attached to their mode of goodness. So just see, it's from different perspectives, and that's why it's important to come out of the box and look from a different angle, but it's hard to do that when we're in the box. So the Bhagavad Gita is knowledge to help bring us out of the box, so then we can look at our life from a higher perspective and we can see things in a clearer picture. So mode of goodness, like good karma, it's still binding. So what's the solution? And that's where we're going to now, and that's when it gets... this is what Bhagavad Gita is really about now. And it always is about this. It's always about transcending. It's transcendental knowledge. Bhagavad Gita is transcendental knowledge. It's a book on transcendence, transcending the material suffering. And it's explained that it's a spiritual solution for material problems. So that's where it's always taken us. But you can see how nicely, same with the karma, same with the three modes of material nature, it starts off within the material realm and it gives us an understanding of how it works, because we're a part of this material world. So how can we move in this material world without getting entangled by the complexities of material nature? And that's what Bhagavad Gita explains very nicely, to give us that understanding of how it all works. And then it always takes us, and now this is how you can transcend it. Which is where it wants us to go, because transcendental platform is in alignment with our spiritual nature. That's where we naturally belong, in the transcendental realm. Jesus Christ, he was in the world but not of the world. So it doesn't mean renouncing the world, it's a state of consciousness, and that's transcendental consciousness. So Bhagavad Gita has taken us here, and with the three modes of nature, where it's taking us is to a place called Suddha Sattva, or pure goodness. It's also known as the Vasudeva state. So from ignorance, passion, goodness, and now to pure goodness, which is where we're heading. This is the place of liberation. This is a place in alignment with the akarma that we spoke about, the actions that have no karmic reaction. So this is where we're heading. And it's explained, it's hard just to get there straight away or instantly to reach the Suddha Sattva platform. So that's why the encouragement is to work through the modes, because it's explained that the mode of goodness, Sattva Guna, is considered a springboard to pure goodness. It's considered the springboard. So to go from Tama Guna, mode of ignorance, straight to Suddha Sattva is very difficult, practically impossible. How can anyone go from that state of consciousness into pure goodness, into the transcendental platform? It's practically impossible. And likewise, going from the mode of passion straight to Suddha Sattva is also extremely difficult, because all this passionate energy and the consciousness of passionate consciousness and what you want from the world is not conducive to a spiritual life. So to help it become conducive and for you to become ready to enter into Suddha Sattva, the mode of goodness is there to prepare us. It's the final step to Suddha Sattva. So you could see it is in steps. And they're all within the material realm, ignorance, passion, goodness, and then into the transcendental realm through Suddha Sattva. So the mode of goodness is the recommendation, and that is, let's say, some of the symptoms. Let's go through it again very quickly, because now we know this is where we really want to be heading, the mode of goodness, and as the springboard to the Vasudeva state. So, regulation. To create a regulated life for yourself. this is important. And there's going to be ups and downs, so it's about not being too harsh on ourselves, but just seeing where we want to go and making incremental steps towards our goal. So it's not like we're going to suddenly try and do it all of a sudden in one day, because it won't work like that, and then we can feel defeated in our effort and then fall back into our old habits. So it's about making incremental steps, and this is what life is for, these incremental steps. And this is what I really want to share, that importance that, you know, there is a meaning to life, and this is a big part of it. It's about working on this path, coming onto the spiritual path and making a daily effort. And the more you do it for yourself, we're going to help each other by doing this. It's really important. We need this so much at this time. The planet needs it so much at the time, and we all have a part to play. And if it's just left for a few people to try and do it, it's going to be really difficult for those few people. So the more of us that can get involved, the easier it's going to become for us all. We're going to create a momentum. We're at a great place of potential change right now. We really are. You know, we're in isolation, and it could go either way, because Maya, this illusory energy that we're trapped in, you know, the world heads of government are like a representation of that Maya, and they've taken their chess move now. They've done their next move. They've got an agenda, and they've done their next move, and that move they've done has been a very big move. It's locked the whole world down globally. It's a global move. They've just done it practically overnight, and they've locked us all down. They're going to make countless individuals who are self-employed to lose their business. We're heading into a massive recession after this coronavirus scare is lifted, where the next thing is a massive recession, and they're bringing that on. They're bringing on this recession. They want this recession. So all these people who have been self-employed and built up their own little business over many years, now they can't work, and they're not going to be able to keep that business above water. By the time they can work again, in that gap from not being able to, okay, now you can trade again, they will have lost their business. Some will keep it, but many are going to lose their business and already becoming dependent on the state. It's called universal credit now here in England. Many people, and everything's under this banner of universal credit. You see, they brought everything under one banner of universal credit, where it used to be housing benefit, child allowance, this, that. Now everything's under universal credit, and they've just made so many people by this move become more dependent on the state. So there's major implications from what they're doing now, and there's numerous goals they're wanting to achieve from what they're doing right now. So now it's time for the people to make our move, because this is known as Kali Yuga, and we're going to cover the yugas, and this yuga is symptomatic of demoniac leaders, and we're still in the early stages of this yuga. And as the yuga progresses, which is what it's doing every day, the Kali Yuga leaders are going to be putting more and more pressure on the people and making life more difficult. But as I previously mentioned, we've entered into a golden age. We're at the beginning of a golden age within this iron age of Kali. And we can be a part of that golden age now. This is what this is all about, is to be a part of that golden age. You don't have to feel that you're a victim of the iron age of Kali and the demoniac leaders that run this iron age. You can enter into the consciousness of the golden age, and that's what we're doing, and that's what Bhagavad Gita is helping us to do. But we have to, make the effort and reach out, and not to be lethargic. So These are the symptoms of the mode of goodness which are conducive to spiritual life. Regulation, and for someone who's had a very unregulated life, the word regulation can seem very unappealing, to say the least, distasteful. But like I mentioned before, the mode of goodness, at first it can seem like poison, but then it becomes like nectar. So it's about having higher knowledge, understanding why we're doing something, and it's really important to connect with community, because just to try and do it by ourselves is very difficult. If we've had a lot of training, then there's a potential we can spend time by ourselves and we can continue. But if, without training, in kind of a community reach out, even if it's virtual, something, it's very difficult to make the progress by ourselves. Like it's also explained, it's very difficult to understand Bhagavad Gita just by ourselves, without having a teacher or teachers explain it to us through this lineage which it's come through for thousands of years. It's very important to connect to that lineage so the knowledge can come down in its pure state, unadulterated state, and can be portrayed correctly, so then we can have the proper understanding of it and act accordingly. So connect. If you're not connected to some person or persons who can help you on the spiritual path, then my recommendation would be to get connected. So the regulation, rising early, because some of us don't like rising early because we had to rise early to go to school and we didn't like school, so we kind of link rising early to doing something that we don't like, or we have to rise early to go and do a job and we may not like the job we do because many people aren't in alignment with their passion and their work. They do a job that doesn't enthuse them, so to get up early, it's about going to work. So when you don't have to work, you naturally want to sleep in because you don't like to get up early because you're not enjoying your job. So these can be stumbling blocks for individuals to rise early because of past kind of related to unhappy experiences about what rising early is for. But so that's why we change everything to spiritual life. So some things don't seem to change. It's the same thing, you rise early, but instead of just rising early to go to work, you're rising early now to practice your meditation. You're rising early, and having a cold shower is good. It takes a bit of practice. Some people do it, some don't, but if you can get into a cold shower, it's really good. It's very good for your immune system. You know, it stimulates your lymph glands, white blood cell production. They say it cleans your mind from the dream state and sleeps. Like we might have just gone through 8 hours of sleep and we get up, and just to go into meditation, there's a grogginess. We're still in that, coming from that sleep state. So when you have a warm shower, it's quite nice and you can clean your body, but it doesn't really wake up the mind. The mind can still be a bit groggy and you move through your day like that. But when you have a cold shower, you become awake very quickly. You'll experience that if you haven't experienced cold showers, or if you have, you know what I'm talking about. And that's called cleaning the mind. It cleans the mind, the cold water. And the mind is part of our subtle body, which we'll cover next time. So it cleans the subtle body. So that's recommended. And then practicing a meditation. I spoke in the laws of karma at the end about the mantra meditation, chanting mantra on beads. And there's many types of meditation we can do. That's very powerful because the mantra you chant has a very powerful cleansing effect on the Maya, the illusory energy that helps us to not see clearly. It clears that out. Studying the scripts, studying the Bhagavad Gita, especially as a first book, Bhagavad Gita as it is, but any other books as well that are of interest to you, because we don't want to limit ourselves. So if you're interested in something, to study that, whether it's yoga or other philosophy or whatever it is. There's countless self-help books, because that's very important as well. Self-help, what's going on in our life, because this is another interesting point now about what's stopping us from living in the mode of goodness and using it as a stepping stone to pure goodness, and what's stopping us from staying in the mode of goodness when we get there. And that can be our how would I say it? I could say past karma, past karma that's caught up, but it can be from it's probably lack of qualification, as a simple way of putting it. We're not really qualified to be there. We're trying to get there. Our natural qualification was Tama Guna, Raja Guna. This is where we have naturally fitted in. So now to come to the mode of goodness, there'll be tinges of the mode of goodness, because they're in everyone. All the three modes are in us all. And some people are more naturally inclined towards a mode of goodness life. Some people are more naturally inclined to a mode of passion life, and some people are more naturally inclined to a mode of ignorance life. But all the three modes are there competing for each other, and the more conscious we become of them, the more we can strive towards the higher mode to assist us in our spiritual life. But what is stopping us sometimes from getting there, things I mentioned before, the depression, the lethargy, the apathy, the addictions, the childhood traumas, all these things are stopping us from getting there. And we might get there because we want that, because we've come to the spiritual path and we're infused by it, but to stay there might be difficult because all these other things get in the way and we haven't cleared them out. So the meditation, the mantra meditation is very powerful, etc., and the study, but also this is where self-help comes in now, to find other means to really see what's going on with our emotions, with our mind, and our patterns that don't serve us and keep coming up, our triggers. All these things are really important to look at as well as a whole being, because if we ignore them and just try and be spiritual, because that's what we want to do, we've had some kind of epiphany, spiritual awakening, and we're only going to get so far, and then the door will close until we sort all this other stuff out. So it's good to work on it while we go along. That's quite balanced, work on it as you go along and cover all aspects of your being. So self-help books, whatever you're interested in, whether it's energy healing or massage or aromatherapy, the oils, whether it's natural medicine, herbalism, study, learning to grow your own food in your garden, have an allotment, learning organic farming towards self-sufficiency, getting knowledge in different aspects of self-reliance, which is always good. And even if it's just things like, carpentry and plumbing and getting skills, and these are all self-help, and these are all really important, and they're all a part of spiritual life. Spiritual life isn't some isolated thing that you're just going to be spiritual and do nothing 24 hours a day. It's integrated into our life, but we have our foundation, which is rising early, having our cold shower, practicing our meditation, and that sets us up for the day. And then we want to engage in like some kind of selfless service, like a higher service, and eventually try and bring who we are out to the front. It's called our Dharma. So you have karma and you have Dharma. And our Dharma is really in alignment with who we have and what we've got to offer to the world on a higher sense. Our higher self and our lower self. So it's really about connecting with our higher self and seeing what's fulfilling me. I may have a job doing this, but it's not fulfilling, where my passion is, say, for example, it might be herbal medicine. I've got such a passion for herbal medicine, but yet I work in a chemist, which is dealing with all the pharmaceuticals, and it's really like kind of against my ethos, and I'm not really happy there with the people I'm around. So then that's important for your self-development, for your happiness, is maybe study the herbal medicine, become a herbal doctor or a herbal practitioner, and start offering that to clients on the side, and eventually it could become an income for you, and you could create, you know, a self-employed job for yourself as a herbal practitioner. And that can go in whatever it is. So this is important as well, to adjust your life, to bring your dharma into this, and this works towards your Suddha Sattva, the akarma state. Is through your dharma you reach your akarma, or it helps you become this whole person, spiritual person, and to live on that Suddha Sattva platform. And the mode of goodness was a springboard to get you there. So the dharma is very important, and it can't be underestimated, because that's our sense of worth and our sense of belonging in the world. And if we don't have that, then we may not feel so inspired in life. We might have our spiritual life, but if our material life isn't inspiring, then it'll be hard to be inspired in our spiritual life. So if we can bring them all together, that's ideal. Some people have a spiritual life, they go and do a regular job in a bank or whatever it is, and they're satisfied, and that's okay as well. But to be satisfied is important, and some people, they really want, like I mentioned, to really bring their passion and have that as their material life. So that's very important. And then the diet. The diet is really important. The vegetarian, vegan, this is the recommendation. I mean, there's no judgment, but that's the recommendation. The vegetarian, vegan diet, to give up the dead animal flesh, especially the pork, the beef. I mean, all animals are living sentient beings, so ideally we don't want to kill and eat any of them. But giving up the pork and the beef, even if you can't give it all up, to give up the pork and the beef is a good start. Or to be vegetarian one day a week and work towards it slowly if it's something that's not so easy for you. But now there's so much on the market promoting vegetarianism and veganism. It's a whole vegan revolution now. So it's not difficult to create a vegetarian diet for yourself, and it's very wholesome, very healthy, and it's conducive for spiritual life. Association is important. You know, associate with people who can lift you up, lift up your consciousness, because this is what our consciousness needs, lifting. And stuff needs to be cleared out so we can be in this mode of goodness more easily and more naturally. So good association is important. People who are already there, they're further along the path than you, and they can also help shine the light for you along your path. So that's very important. So I think that's quite a lot to work with, isn't it, already? Regulation, regulate your activities, rising early, having a cold shower, having a morning spiritual practice, meditation, etc., yoga, studying scriptural knowledge like the Bhagavad Gita, studying other books that are of interest to you, self-help books, which might be related to why you might be addicted to things, addiction, childhood trauma, emotional issues, mental issues, etc. So all self-help to help you with that. Become your own physician, become your own doctor. You know yourself better than anyone else. Well, that's the goal, is to get to know yourself better than anyone else. And really you do. You know your body better than anyone else. Diet, the vegetarian vegan diet, and then make your dharma your karma. Dharma, the karma is the actions, and make your dharma in alignment, your actions. So all that's loads to work with. You start working that, putting all that together, you'll change your life. You'll help be on the Suddha Sattva platform, bounce through into the Suddha Sattva, be established in transcendental bliss, be above the modes of nature, see everything for what it is, not be deceived, not be in illusion, but also not fall into fear because of the illusion, and not fall into hatred because of the illusion, not to fall into apathy because of the illusion. None of those things. You just see it for what it is and you carry on with your life, and you're breaking through, and while you're breaking through, you're helping others to break through as well. We're one collective people, like all the roots under the trees are all connected, so we're all energetically connected, and we're all in this together, you know. It is one for all and all for one is the motto. So we're in this together, and the more we can do for ourselves, we're doing it for everyone else simultaneously. So always remember that. It's a selfless action. If you're going to work on your self-development, the implications of that is going to be felt by the whole globe. Don't think it's not. The whole globe will feel your little effort. So everything you do is going to benefit others as well as benefiting yourself. And we're going to set ourselves free. Freedom comes from within. Ultimately, we're going to set ourselves free. But we can also help set the planet free and help Mother Nature. So let's know that we can do this. We are the people, and the power is to the people. So reclaim your power. If you felt you've lost your power a bit, reclaim your power, and you can do this. Wherever you feel it's been lost, come get it back. Reclaim your power. Stand in your power. Stand up. Have no fear. There's nothing to be afraid of. We're all eternal beings, and we can do this. This is the time. This is the time. And I'm going to just seal up with this now. This is the time of great potential transformation. And I keep saying that. We're on lockdown. It's coronavirus lockdown. This is the time for great potential transformation. Use this time. Transform yourself. Come out from the caterpillar. We're all going to come out as beautiful butterflies when the cage doors are open again. We're all going to come out and we can transform the world. It's a global situation. The global leaders have locked us down. This is their mistake, because this has given us the opportunity to know ourselves better and connect with each other more than we ever have through virtual, through online. And this has given us the opportunity to really see what's going on, have time for transformation, time off the hamster wheel, time out of the rat race, to create transformation that we won't let things go back the way they were, and we're going to create the change as the people, and now is the time to do it. So stay strong, have a good day, stay positive, stay focused, use your energy, keep your energy moving, don't fall prey to lethargy, and we can do this. Thank you very much. So I'll leave it there, and in the next lesson we're going to cover the nature of the self. It's very great. It's all scientific. We're going to break down our being into the elements, the mind, intelligence, the ego, the subtle aspects of our being, then go to the spirit, soul, the transcendental nature of our being. And it's going to be very interesting, so keep your eyes and ears open for that one. It'll be coming soon. So lots of love to you all. Hare Krishna. Namaste.